Here's how this studio is exposing Xbox's biggest problem. Let's discuss. What's up guys, and welcome back to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. I am super excited because this is the first video I'm filming in 2024. I did a lot of traveling for the holidays. I did all sorts of stuff for the holidays, and I'm glad to be back on the channel talking Xbox with you guys. Now, one of the big storylines for Xbox going into the holiday season was we finally got Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox consoles. They surprise dropped the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3 after the Game Awards, and I was super excited. I loved this game on Steam. I have about 200 hours of playtime already logged in. But ever since then, the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3 seems to be causing nothing but problems. All I see in the news and in the headlines are, oh, there's a save issue. Oh, players are getting banned for this. All sorts of problems. But where some people might see problems, issues with Xbox, I see opportunity. Let's talk all the ways that Larian Studios, the developers behind Baldur's Gate 3, a game you may not have even heard of until the Game Awards, is forcing Xbox to improve, or at the very least, reckon with some problems that have flown under the radar for quite some time. Now, if you've been watching this channel, if you've been keeping up with video game news, you know that Larian Studios and Xbox, their problems didn't just start with the save issues, with the players getting banned for recording explicit scenes. No, it goes all the way back to February 2023. This is when they announced the release date for the Steam version of the game and the PS5 version of the game, but not the Xbox one. And after a lot of people bickering back and forth on Twitter, Larian Studios finally cleared some things up. They said, well, we don't have a release date for the Xbox version of our game because we can't get split-screen co-op to work on the Series S. Why is that a problem? Well, because Microsoft and Xbox, they have this parity clause that says, hey, if you want to ship your game on our platform, you got to make sure all the same features that are in the Series X version of the game make it to the Series S version. It's okay if the game visually looks different than the Series X version, but it has to have all the same features, this game, that the Series X version has on the S. Technically, split-screen co-op was a game feature for Baldur's Gate 3, and because they couldn't get it working on the S, they couldn't ship an Xbox version at all, regardless of the fact that split-screen was working on the Series X. They went on to clarify, saying that it's not just a matter of scaling down resolution or performance to get it working, it was a much bigger problem. So what happened next? Xbox was like, oh man, this is not a good look, we gotta do something about this. Let's send our own personal engineers over to Larian Studios in order to try and get split screen working on the Series S. Long story short, it still didn't work. Even with the help of those Xbox engineers, they still couldn't figure it out. And while a lot of people may look at that and be like, man, that's an L on Xbox's part, that's an L on the Series S's part, there's actually something really cool that came out of all of this extra work for the Series S version of the game. While the developers were working to optimize the Series S version of Baldur's Gate 3, they actually found a way to reduce RAM and VRAM usage by up to 10 and 35% respectively. This not only allowed them to work around the slower memory speeds of the Series S, they even admitted this could be a really cool improvement that could be utilized on all versions of the game, not just the Xbox one. So while yes, the devs at Xbox and Larian Studios, they had to do a little bit of extra work, but they ultimately found an improvement that not only benefits Xbox players, but all players of Baldur's Gate 3, no matter what platform they're on. So they couldn't get split screen working on the Series S. Big deal, who cares? Personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I've only used the split screen function like once or twice in the entire time I've owned the game. It turns out that trying to convince my wife to play Baldur's Gate 3 is a little bit tougher of a sell than I thought it was gonna be. And at this point, if you haven't been keeping up with the news cycle, you're probably watching this being like, wait a minute, there is no split screen on the Baldur's Gate 3 version of the Series S, so why did they end up shipping the game when you were just talking about that parity clause that demands that developers have the same game features on the Series X and S versions of their game? Well, that's because Microsoft ultimately made an exception for Larian Studios. They said, okay, dang, this game is really popular, it's critically doing very well, it's selling very well, oh crap, it's a contender for Game of the Year, we gotta get this on the Xbox platform. Let's make an exception for Larian Studios, say it's okay if you don't have split screen working on the Series S as long as you just ship the game on Xbox consoles. Now, a lot of people might look at that and be like, man, that's another L on Xbox's part. This platform holder backed by this massive company, Microsoft, is forced to bend the knee to Larian Studios, this indie developer. But I think this is a gift, my friends. I think it is a gift. Microsoft showed in this instance that it could be flexible. It potentially opens the door for other third-party devs to get their games onto the Xbox platform, whereas previously they might have been reluctant to do so. We don't know for sure if any other games have skipped the Xbox platform because they looked at the dual console lineup, the Series S and X, and were like, I don't really want to deal with that. I don't want to make sure the same features are supported on both consoles. Xbox making an exception for Larian Studios shows that they can be developer friendly, that they will work with you in order to get your game on the Xbox platform, which is something that they desperately need because they don't have the install base to sit back and be like, well, if you want to get your game on Xbox, which has 100 million units out there, you're going to have to make sure that split screen works on the Series S. They don't have that power, they don't have that status. So as they continue on in this generation, they need to be developer friendly, they need to be flexible. After all of that, Baldur's Gate 3 was finally released on Xbox consoles after the Game Awards. It was really weird. They didn't have an announcement about it during the show, but if you went to the Xbox store, the Microsoft store on your console, and you searched up Baldur's Gate 3, it was there. And I was super excited. I was like, finally, this game that I've been talking about for months and months and months, gushing over, y'all have the opportunity to finally play it. But the problems for Xbox and Baldur's Gate 3 were far from over. Soon after people started playing the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3, they started reporting that they were losing hours and hours and hours of progress. Their save files were mysteriously disappearing. People were playing 10, 12, upwards of 75 hours and losing all of their progress. Chances are, if you're watching this, you're a gamer, I'm a gamer. I don't need to tell you how devastating that would be to open up your file and be like, Xbox caught wind of this and was like, ooh, this is not a great look. We gotta push out an update. Larian Studios, we gotta push out an update. And 3 weeks ago, they did just that. I talked about it in a video. They pushed out an update that was around 18 gigabytes and said that this would fix the issue of saves mysteriously disappearing amongst other quality of life patches. Spoiler alert, it did not fix the issue. People were still reporting that they were losing their saves. This is a Windows Central article from a week ago detailing how someone lost 75 hours of progress. It just disappeared off of their Xbox console. And once again, this week, Larian Studios has responded to this deleted save bug. They made a post on Twitter. They said, we're aware that there is a save issue on Xbox that continues to linger throughout the holidays. It occurs when exiting the game after saving. The game thinks the save was successful, but due to a firmware issue, the save file is not fully committed to disk yet. Microsoft is aware of the issue and is working on it, but obviously during the holidays, everyone is working at lower capacity, so it may take a while before a proper fix becomes available. For the time being, we can offer a workaround via the Larian cross-save system. And what they recommend is that when you go to save your game, it takes a little bit to save the game, and then afterwards you'll see a little thing saying syncing cloud save. What I would recommend is just let it ride. Do not exit out of the game until everything in that top left corner disappears. Especially when it comes to the Larian cloud save, because if for whatever reason your local save file is not on your Xbox anymore, worst case scenario, you can go to the Larian cloud save servers and download your save data from there back onto your Xbox. Now, Ray, hold up. I thought you were going to talk about how these issues, these growing pains, were beneficial to Xbox players. That just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. And while yes, guys, that is a bunch of nonsense right now, this is a great opportunity for Xbox to reevaluate this whole save file, syncing it to the cloud. I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in 2024 they put out an update that lets you turn off cloud backup syncing for your games. Some people kind of sort of found a workaround for that. They can put their console in offline mode, but for some people that does not work. Toggling cloud saves and cloud backups for your save files is something that's available on PS5. So hopefully Xbox looks at the scenario and they're like, you know, maybe we shouldn't be forcing people to back up their saves to our cloud servers. Maybe we should give them the option. If they want to, that's cool. But if they don't, here's a little button to turn that off. And on top of all that, it's being reported that players are getting banned for recording some of the more expensive explicit scenes using Xbox game capture. Now, even if you've heard next to nothing about Baldur's Gate 3, chances are you've heard that there's some steamy moments in the game. There's a lot of romance scenes, there's a lot of violence, explicit content. By comparison, I don't think that Baldur's Gate 3 is that crazy, but that seems to be the narrative behind the game. They're like, oh, you can have sex with the bear, oh, you can have sex with the devil woman, and it's like, yo, y'all need to chill. That is like 0.2 seconds of the game, and you don't even have to do it. Larian Studios again took to Twitter. They said, we've seen the reports that some players got banned or otherwise faced issues on Xbox having uploaded screenshots/videos of their gameplay content. We're in discussion with Microsoft, and we're looking into it. Annoying and uncool. Dang, they hit Xbox with the "you're annoying."
You're annoying.
Not a good look, man, not a good look, but a lot of this seems to stem from one specific case that was documented on Reddit. User Daddy Vegas was saying that he recorded 3 clips of Baldur's Gate 3. One of them had the scene that wasn't even a sex scene, it wasn't a romance scene. It was a scene where 2 characters, Shadowheart and Lae'zel, they're fighting each other, and Shadowheart is over Lae'zel. She has a knife to her throat. In his post, he said that they were naked during the scene. I don't know what that's about because I've seen that scene play out multiple times and they're never naked. They're like in their like night garb, whatever, but they're not naked. Anyway, shortly after recording those clips, he said that he got a notice where he just was slammed with all sorts of strikes. Now, for those of you who are not aware, Xbox has this new strike enforcement policy wherein if you get 8 strikes, your account gets banned. And this guy got 9 strikes. He got 333 for each clip. Now, here is what is annoying and uncool about this. Nowhere in this guy's Reddit post, in this guy's story, says that he took the clips and then uploaded them to his feed or shared them to social media in any way. What seems to have happened is that he recorded the clips and they were uploaded to the Xbox Cloud or Xbox Live Network, and their automated system flagged the content and handed out that suspension. He goes on to specify, saying, if I was banned because of something I added to the game that violated their terms, that's on me. But I just captured the content as presented in the game they sold me using the feature they provided, with the button literally located in the dead middle of the controller. And I can't help but wonder, is this a symptom of a bigger problem going on at Xbox? In 2023, we saw Xbox push a lot of new features that they were hoping would curb online toxicity. They introduced the strike enforcement system, 8 strikes and you're out, but each strike carries its own suspension. They introduced voice clip recordings for player reporting. They issued multiple transparency reports detailing their use of AI to prevent harmful content from popping up on their platform. And that language, specifically, the preventative part, is what is wrong with Xbox's approach to player moderation. When I initially covered their transparency reports and their player moderation efforts, I was sitting there and I was saying, okay, well, they're using AI to prevent harmful images and content from showing up on their platform before it's even uploaded. I was like, that's cool and all, but I hope that their AI is catching this stuff, it's flagging this stuff, but ultimately it's being reviewed by a human, adding some additional context that may be needed. In this Baldur's Gate 3 situation, players getting banned for recording game clips that they're not even sharing tells me that is not the case. Because again, this guy's account, he got 9 strikes because of their automated flagging system. There was no mention of him sharing the content, just recording it, and those clips were uploaded to their cloud where they were flagged. The good thing is that this guy in particular on Reddit, he ended up getting his suspension revoked. It got a lot of steam, Kotaku picked up on it, a lot of media outlets picked up on it. But you have to imagine that there are a ton of people who have a similar situation going on that didn't get their accounts reinstated, whether it's an infraction they experienced with Baldur's Gate 3 or another game. And here's the final way that Larian Studios is forcing Xbox to improve. Xbox can take this opportunity and re-examine their player moderation policy. This whole Baldur's Gate 3 banning of accounts, it shows that in a lot of these cases, you need additional context before you hand out disciplinary action. You can't just rely on AI or automated flagging systems, which is something that Xbox seems to rely very heavily on because they say it right here in their transparency report. Hopefully Xbox is taking this as a learning experience. Yeah, they have a responsibility to make sure that everyone has fun on Xbox without having to deal with crazy online trolls. But they have to strike a better balance with it. Otherwise, they run the risk of turning longtime fans and customers studios off of their brand. In the end, while it's never good to have problems, especially with such a high-profile game like Baldur's Gate 3, I view this entire saga dating all the way back to February 2023 as growing pains. I view it as a way for Xbox to continue to improve its offerings. And I think it's pretty remarkable that all of this change, all of this drama is because the Larian Studios have made a game that is simply too big to be ignored. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. You can follow me on Instagram, State of Ray, or Xbox Ready. Other than that, we'll see you in the next video.